everyone, this is Dr. Carmen Bryant. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. This is Overcoming Narcissist Abuse. Thank you to all the new subscribers for coming on board and being a part of this tribe. Thank you so much for all the comments, even for video requests. So today's topic, I wanted to talk about what is abusive litigation. So do understand that what you're dealing with is you're dealing with most of you that have experienced, have been victim of, or are in recovery or are survivors of abuse. A lot of you have been abused by an individual that possibly has narcissistic personality disorder. You've been watching these videos and other videos that are being made, and you really can identify with majority of everything that's being said. And so it registers to you now that this individual, though not clinically diagnosed, this individual, in your heart that this person is a narcissist, or technically, ethically or professionally, the correct term is a person that has narcissistic personality disorder. But for the purpose of survivors and empowering survivors, we'll say a person that is a narcissist, a narc. So for many people, if you have been in domestic violence counseling support groups through the YWCA or any domestic violent groups, they teach you the power and control wheel. That includes finances, medical, psychological abuse, any kind of abuse, even within the courtrooms, but you learn the power and control wheel. And so most, you are educated, you should have been educated, or they have explained to you that most of the time, if you read the statistics, most people, and at that time it was mostly focused on women that were leaving domestic violent relationship. But as you know now, as times have changed, you also have the LGBTQ community who also suffers from domestic violence. You have females, males abuse females, females abuse males, males abuse males, females abuse females, and children. And so, narcissistic personality disorder and abuse is an equal opportunity discriminator. So there, we don't want to leave out any community. And so in that, regardless whether it's in the heterosexual community or the LGBTQ community, abuse is abuse. Domestic violence is domestic violence. And you will learn, if you read and research, is that majority of the people that are killed or injured are those that are leaving the relationship. And so the most dangerous time for most people is upon departing or leaving or escaping from that relationship. Now, I'm not going to go into, the narcissist, not the narcissist, but the toxic domestic violent type relationship minus the narcissism. My focus is those that have narcissism. And so for a individual to escape an abusive relationship, and remember, not all narcissists physically abuse. A lot of the cerebrals and somatic, but a lot of the cerebrals are highly psychologically abusive individuals. And a lot of times you don't even realize that you're being abused financially. Physical abuse still includes, even if they don't put their hands on you, physical abuse still includes blocking you from leaving out of the door because they want to finish a conversation, not allowing you to sleep, or continuously turning on the light or keeping you awake, that sleep deprivation, not allowing you your space, getting close to your face, and you say, this is very abusive, and they tell you, I'm not touching you. And so that's why a lot of victims or survivors say, well, I can't really say that it was abuse or I was being abused. It wasn't domestic violence because of the fact that he or she never put their hands on me. It doesn't matter what they put their hands on you or not. It doesn't matter. That is still domestic violence when someone is imposing their will upon yours and refusing you your freedom to, to educate yourself, to make a living, to sustain yourself. And many of the narcissists have taken the victims to a point where, and they have, kind of held the carrot in front of them. I just want you to be a housewife or husband. Well, they are husbands and husbands and wives. But what happened, I lost my train of thought. Let me get my train of thought back together. But what happens is that they will present to you, I want you to stay at home, I want you to take care of the kids, I'll make the money, I'll make sure to support you. And so for the average person, that doesn't mind, being a master of the home, like, oh, this is excellent, this is great, not realizing that you're dealing with an individual that has narcissism or NPD, or that's being abusive. And really what they're doing is they're taking your opportunity away to get an education, to make finances. So it makes it harder for you to escape, because you have no means of sustaining yourself or taking care of the kids, meaning that it's prolonged, that you end up feeling like, I have nowhere to go, I have no choice but to stay. So they know that. Their mindset, and they have trained you to believe that there is no way that you're going to survive without me in your life. You're not going to make it. You're not going to achieve anything without me in your life. And so to leave a narcissist is really a narcissistic injury. It's a slap in their face. You have ripped the mask off of their face, and on top of that, in their minds, you're taking away, sorry, I just check and see someone's at the door, taking away their power and control. You are taking your control back over your life, and you're telling them that you don't have control. So they're losing control, they're losing a grip, and in their minds, you're taking away my property, you're taking away what belongs to mine. You're mine, my children are mine, it's mine. You know, no one is entitled to this, this is mine. And so what you'll find is, sorry you guys, what you'll find is that the abuse, because they don't have direct control over you anymore within your space, because you have left, now the process is, and some of you are going through it, some of you have been through it, some of you are thinking of doing it, what happens is they exert their power and control elsewhere. Besides the smear campaigns, they begin to use the court systems to continue their abuse. So to continue to victimize you within the court systems. They use the court systems against you. They use litigations and discovery processes against you. They turn the lawyers against you. They ask for mental health assessments. And so I pulled up this article is two. One is an explanation within the from Seattle. This is what I give a lot of my clients that are going through this, to give them information as I provide them with education about abuse and what they may be experiencing. And this is in general, not just those that are going through, you know, with a narcissist, but those that are going through, you know, domestic violence in general, that need this information to prepare themselves what could happen when they go through the court system. So in Seattle, they have what's called a program that's called Legal Voice. So you can find this on www.legalvoice.org /abusive-litigation. And in here, where it says women's right, nothing less, but do understand that it does apply to males and female alike, because it happens in the court system. I'm gonna move my camera a little bit so I can get close to the computer. Okay, so here, what is abusive litigation? And this is abusive litigation when your abuser exploits the legal system, obviously. And so when someone exploits the legal system to assert power and control over you, he or she is engaging in abusive litigation. That's the definition of it. So even if you have left your abuser, he or she can inflict psychological, emotional, and financial harm by taking you and even your friends and relatives to court again and again. And so here are some what counts as abusive litigation. And so it can take forms many ways. And usually it does include family law proceedings, protection orders proceedings, and frivolous lawsuits initiated by batterers. Now, keep in mind, I told you guys before that, you know, a lot of, and I wish, I'm going to ask this one lawyer if she would allow me to interview her in reference to like her experiences with the court system. And she said that she is accustomed to, and she does work with high conflict cases, and a lot of times those, you know, that are abusive. And she says that a lot of times she makes sure her caseload is not overwhelmed with these types of cases, because it becomes emotionally overwhelming, because it is exhausting. It takes a lot of time, and you're dealing with an individual, not all of them, but you're dealing with an individual with narcissistic personality disorder. Well, they're relentless, and they're going to get you back whatever way they possibly can. And so here are some common abusive litigation tactics that are used in court. And I'm going to go to another site to explain some of that in detail. And so seeking a protection order against you or your family or friends. And so all of a sudden, you're getting accused of doing things that they were doing, but they beat you to the protective order. And so now you have this against you. Many people, jobs are effective if you are, within the legal system, within the police department, within your public, in the public safety, whether you're in public transportation, anything dealing within the hospital or children. Once you get a protective order imposed on you, a lot of people have found that they were not employable in the career fields that they had been working in for years. The narcissist knows what they're doing, and they're going to beat you to the punch. They'll try to beat you to the punch. So waging custody battles. So back and forth, they'll use custody battles to threaten you or blackmail you, to try to get you to do what they want you to do, even to a point where you'll give up custody of the children just to get them to leave you alone. Filing contempt motions against you for no reason. You're in contempt of court because of the fact that whatever crazy reason, you're in contempt of court. They'll file contempt of court, motions against you, portraying you as an unfit parent or requesting mental health evaluations. Now, some people already have, past trauma. They may have had, any kind of trauma or trauma from being in the relationship with the narcissist. And so they'll use that, but they'll take themselves out of the picture and they'll use that against you. And then they'll request mental health evaluation to show that you are unfit. They'll try to prove that you are not fit to raise your children. And a lot of times they may get awarded temporary custody of the children to a point where they are practicing parental alienation. And so they have these children in their custody at the time where they have the time to, if they manipulated you or if they psychologically abuse you, imagine what they're doing to the children. And so that's why I tell you guys, go look for those videos on parental alienation. They do have YouTube videos on there from lawyers that discuss in depth and professionals that talk in depth about parental alienation. And so a lot of times you'll find them doing that so that they can convince the courts that the children are afraid of you. Children do not want to be with you. They will hire counselors where they will impose their opinions, and so their opinions, because when you hire us as a therapist, we are kind of biased because our focus becomes that client and what you present to us. And so we become biased because our concern now is your mental well-being and your safety. And so we don't know anything else outside of that. We just focus on what you present to us until we begin to discover maybe that this is not what it seems like, and so by then you've been subpoenaed to court, and I always highly recommend to many people, don't ever subpoena your personal therapist to court because they're not hired by the court to do an evaluation, a family evaluation, or to provide information on whether you are a fit or unfit parent. And on top of that, you're kind of giving up your rights for that therapist to come on the stand and have to testify truthfully what are some of the things that have been discussed in counseling, and some of the things are very personal that you don't want everybody to know. And so when you get into the courtrooms and you subpoena your personal therapist into the courtroom, a lot of times the opposing side, where the narcissist is at, will number one try to discredit the therapist, but also will take whatever is being said and they can use it against you whatever way they want to. They can even impose or ask questions in a way that will benefit them. And so a lot of times I don't recommend, and even a lot of the lawyers, malpractice lawyers, recommend it's not a good idea to do that, but to each his own. Another thing, they file frivolous motions, appeals, motions for revision or motions for reconsideration, forcing you to meet in court and spend time and money. So especially if you're limited at finances or you have a pro bono lawyer, they know that you don't have money or that you have a certain amount of money, so they'll try to, especially if they have more money than you do and they can afford legal, and especially those of you that did not have jobs that are working with pro bono legal assistance, they'll try to wear you out in the court system and use all your money where it gets to a point where you don't even have legal representation anymore, and back-to-back motions, and it gets so to a point where it's confusing, and then your lawyer, if they don't understand what they're dealing with, they're frustrated, back and forth. What is this? This is ridiculous. This is crazy. A lot of it sounds truthful. A lot of this is garbage. It's just a big chaos. And so attempting to bring issues that have already been decided back in the court. So a long time ago, something has already been decided. And so now here they're in court again, revisiting something that has already been established in the courts already. And so you may have a new judge, you may have a new lawyer, whatever, but they're rehashing old stuff that has already been settled. Now you're having to prove, okay, this has already been settled. What is the problem? Attempting to, what is this? Try to open up cases in other jurisdictions. So they'll try to apply in different jurisdictions. And so all of a sudden you have these court appearances that you don't show up for, that you have no idea that you had. to make you look like that you are irresponsible, that you are just non-compliant, making burdensome discovery requests and or using the discovery process to bring up embarrassing or irrelevant information about you. So there's this long list of discovery process of information that really is irrelevant to your case. Your mother is a foreigner. Your father was an alcoholic. When you and him or you and her first met, one foot was bigger than the other, or, you were having surgery, brain surgery, hair implantations, whatever. Because remember, I told you that in the beginning of a relationship, they are trying to find loopholes to find out what your weaknesses are. And it's not a mutual type of relationship where they're trying to get to know you. They're trying to find your weaknesses, which they will use against you, and you'll find out in the court proceeding. And it's very hurtful because you're thinking like, these are all the private conversations that we have had. Simple stuff like you're joking and playing and you throw a pillow at the back of their head. Well, they'll take that and she came in and tried to suffocate me with the pillow, or he tried to come in and kill me with a teddy bear. Crazy stuff, believe it or not, crazy stuff. Discovery requests. I want your shoe size. I want what type of wigs you buy. Where do you buy your jewelry? Where do you use the bathroom? What type of toilet paper? Now, I'm just being funny in a serious situation, but there's just all sorts of stuff just to stall the process and to frustrate you to think about it. This is what they used to do when they were in the relationship with you, frustrate you to a point where they can get what they want. Well, they're abusing you within the court system, and so they're trying to pay you back and frustrate you even to get what they want, but just to show you that they're still in control, and I have control over the court system, the judges, and the lawyers. So prolonging court proceedings to inflict financial and emotional harm, refusing to comply with court orders, forcing you to spend time and money to enforce the orders. You may have a child support order and they decide that that's not what they're going to pay. They're not going to pay it, or they adjust the child support whatever way they want to. So now you have to spend more money to go back to court for contempt of court to go back and show them that they're not paying. So and then just over that issue right there, they bring up other stuff that you are, Debbie doing Dallas and you're a porn star. What does that have to do with child support? Anything to distract or to refocus or to break your focus over what is going on, and the judge and the lawyer. This is the kind of stuff that they do in the court system. And so threatening, or even if they have like no contact order, they'll find a way to contact you. They'll continue contacting you, and they have a justification as why they need to contact you, and that it was you that contacted them. All sorts of crazy stuff. So let's see. Threatening to report you to immigration. So those of you that are immigrants, whether legal or illegal, do know that you do have rights when it comes to domestic violence. Go find a domestic violence advocate and find those. They do have sometimes most of them do have, especially at the YWCA, legal representation, especially for immigrants that are being abused and then threatened to exposed to be deported because you won't comply to those demands. So go speak to a domestic violence advocate and their legal services within their program. There is protection for you. Making false reports to Child Protective Services. So report after report after report after report after report, in reference to you. And your children, that you're abusive, you are neglectful, you're this, you're that. It's constant. You're constantly getting a call from an investigator. They want to come and investigate. They want to come, Now, some of them finally figure out, like, okay, this is what and that's why the problem is now that's why it becomes harder and harder for a lot of the investigators, because a lot of times when they're involved in court cases, when there is a serious issues, they turn the blind eye because like, oh, this is just, and sometimes it is really legitimate. That's the sad part. Falsely claims that you abuse drug and alcohol, that you need to go and get a evaluation for drug and alcohol, and you know that you probably never touched it, or you're just a social drinker. There's nothing harmful about your drinking. Suing you for reporting abuse. So now you are the abused, and so is your children. And so now they want to turn around and sue you for accusing them of doing what they are actually doing and proving what they're doing in the courtroom. Suing or threatening to sue anyone who helps you, including family, friends, advocates, attorneys, and law enforcement officers. And so attorneys, they go after the attorneys. They have filed complaints against the Bar Association. They have filed complaints against the judges. They have filed complaints against therapists. Anyone, even your friends and family that you are a part of this abusive anything. So it becomes really messy. Filing complaints against the judge or your lawyer, with the Bar Association. So it says, can abusive litigation be stopped? So judges who recognize that abusive litigation is taking place in the courtroom have a number of means to address the issues. For example, a court can prohibit abusive litigants from filing new lawsuits without the court's authorization, impose conditions on or prohibit appeals, limit the number of allowable court filings, limit the scope of discovery. Some of you guys need to talk to your lawyer and you need to inquire about abusive litigation. Can we make the judge aware of abusive litigation and request, a limit to the scope of discovery, because they're using that as power and control and as abuse. Take a domestic violence advocate with you and one that understands this process. Now, I always brag about my friend who Ms. Bridget Griffin, who is in the Seattle area. She's well versed on this. She's very, very good at what she does, especially when she goes to court with victims, those that have been abused, because she understands this right here, and she does interject and she does go in to support them and bring this information up. And so I have the experience of talking to her, but I know that not every domestic violence advocate is mature enough, experienced enough, or even has fear, because sometimes they're fearful too when they go in there. And so, you have to find one that is good at what they do. So if you're in the Seattle area, in the Seattle YWCA, you guys can look her up, but she probably has a full caseload anyway. And so let's see. So you can also require abusive litigants to post a bond for lawyer's fee, make them pay your lawyer's fee because they keep taking you to court, and impose sanctions. And so let's see. What can I do to make it stop? If you're experiencing abusive litigation, notify the court and ask the court to take action. If the judge is not familiar with abusive litigation, you may want to refer him or her to the Domestic Violence Manual for Judges, Appendix H. Now, this is in Seattle, Washington area. Abusive litigation and domestic violence survivor. At the end of this manual has an extensive information about this topic. So, what I would encourage you to do is to talk to your lawyer to do that. I don't think you want to just go in there and tell the judge what they need to do. No, talk to the lawyer and ask the lawyer to do that on your behalf, or your legal representative. I also have another site that you guys can go to where it talks about now, this is the YWCA Vancouver branch, and this is prepared by Andrea Volens, who is the YWCA legal educator. And you can find this at www.ywcavan.org. And so it's /, you know what? This is a very, 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 very long link. I'm going to link this into my community tab. Go look in the community tab, but it's court-related abuse and harassment. It says leaving an abuser can be harder than staying. And she does break down abusive litigation, and it talks about using the court system to improperly through multiple court applications, using the process to humiliate and traumatize the victim, manufacturing evidence or crisis. This may be trying to get into the court on a short leave application only because he or she is currently underrepresented. Financially abusing him or her, it says her, but him or her, isolating her from support workers, lawyers, or threatening those that help her, using public servant services to harass her. Police and child protection authorities are often used in this ploy. Child protection workers are called for false allegations of abuse, undermining his or her abuse of the victim by portraying themselves as the victim of abuse. Some will even injure themselves or wait until she defends herself and call the police to allege an assault. So in other words, you're defending yourself and then you end up injuring the person that's abusing you, and so then they'll call the police, and then whatever they go by what they see, they go by what is presented to them, and they have the injury, and so all of a sudden you find yourself in trouble with protection order or in court, and you actually were trying to defend yourself. They don't show the prodding, the prodding and the harassment. And so, but I will put this link because it goes into detail as to what a lot of you guys have been talking about and inquiring about. And I will put this link in my community tab so that you guys can look through this manual. This is the YWCA Vancouver branch. So I don't know if this is Vancouver, Washington, or Vancouver, Canada. I'm not sure. But this is court-related abuse and harassment. Leaving an abuser can be harder than staying. And this is prepared by Andrea Volens, YWCA legal educator. I love it. This is really good information, and I'm going to post that to my community tab. I will also post the abusive litigation link from the Seattle branch on the community tab as well, so you guys have it, okay? And so hopefully this has helped a little bit. I know this is not going to resolve right away. It's a process, but now you have more education, you have more information, even for those of you that are working with legal advocates, domestic violence advocates, and your lawyers. A lot of lawyers are not familiar with that, and some of them are familiar with the terms, you know, or what is happening in the court system. But this is so that you guys can get more information and get protection in the court system. And that is what abusive litigation is. And a lot of you are having the aha moment, like this is what is happening right now as we speak. So hopefully this has helped you guys. Thank you so much for subscribing to my channel. Those of you that have not subscribed, you know, go ahead and hit the thumbs up. I think it's a thumbs up. Hit the like or the thumbs up, or hit the subscribe. There we go. Hit the subscribe. Make sure you hit the bell so you know whenever I upload new videos and when I come on live, which is normally on Sundays between 8 and 9 o'clock Pacific Standard Time. I want you guys to join me. I probably will not be on live on Saturday because of the fact that I'm doing the mommy thing. And so, but I will be putting clips together of our adventure at Leavenworth, Washington, which is a German Bavarian community. And for those of you that know or don't know, I am from München, Deutschland. I'm from Munich, Germany, and I am part Bayerish. I'm Bavarian, so I'm a Bayerish girl. I do not speak the language, the Bavarian dialect anymore. I speak what they would consider the Hochdeutsch, but I don't speak it as well anymore. I do understand it a little bit, and so a lot of times I prefer that, you know, whoever is German, speak the German, and if I can't respond to you correctly, I usually will respond in English. So that's what most people do. So I'm going to take you guys with me on that trip. Also, I have 2 Facebook pages. One is my professional Facebook page, Psychological Health Consultants and Services. The other one is my book Facebook page, which is Overcoming Narcissist Abuse. I usually post on all of it, and sometimes I limit what I post on my professional one because sometimes I have other speaking engagement within like the church community, and I usually just put that on my book site. And so those of you that are seeking counseling at this particular time, I am not providing counseling or seeing clients at this time through BetterHelp.com, but there is a sponsored link below in my YouTube, underneath my YouTube video, which is BetterHelp.com/Dr. Carmen. You will get a 10% discount if you go to the site and you start vetting counselors, and it's a nominal fee, you know, so it's not a lot of money versus how much you would pay me for coaching. But some of you need counseling. So look for counselors that specialize in post-traumatic stress, domestic violence, you know, abuse, you know, those type of, you know, languages, because narcissist abuse is actually domestic violence. And then you can ask them if they're aware of, you know, what happens within narcissist abuse. I have my little Canadian angel, Miss Eileen, who had a counselor in her area that she did telephonic calls and, you know, online counseling that understood narcissist abuse and the results and the residuals of it. And so please, you know, go on there, check it out, vet a counselor, you know, invest the money. You are worth the investment. You are worth the investment of recovery. And sometimes you have to take the opportunity. It's easy to tear something down, but a lot of times it takes money to build it back up. It takes time and investment to build it back up. And all of you are worth the time and energy and the money that you spend on investing in yourself to recover from what has happened. So go check out the www.betterhelp.com/Dr. Carmen. And, you know, go and vet a counselor, pay the fee, and, you know, and see how it works for you. If you're having financial difficulties, they do offer grants, you know, inquire about that. For those of you that have not already, I do have a book out. It's called Unmasking, the Illusion of Perfection. I provide Christian encouragement. However, it is a book and it's the stories of, hi, how are you?
I'm good, how about you?
I am great. Give me 1 second. But there's stories about people that have been through narcissist abuse. You can find it on Barnes & Noble. You can find it on Amazon.com, and you are welcome to purchase the book. And I appreciate everything that you guys do and everything, all the links and the comments. Thank you so much for joining me, and you guys go and be great.